Hello everyone, my name is Shawn Hendriks, and in this video what I'm going to do is walk you through one workflow that you can use with the Graphite modeling tools in 3ds Max and 3ds Max Design 2010. When I first saw the Graphite features back in the alpha of these products, this use that I'm going to show you now was the first thing that came to mind because it's a problem that's existed in many industries for a number of years that had no easy solution for most artists. So to give you an idea of that, I'm going to show you this model here, which is a landscape model. Probably came from DEM data or some sort of ISO line setup, and a skin was generated for it at some point. And this is what's been sent to me inside of 3ds Max. This is a pretty typical thing to see, particularly in the design visualization industries where they're getting in survey data to generate landscapes and it's being passed off to the artist. And what you end up with is this rat's nest mesh. It's all uneven. There's no, nice parameterization. If I turn off the edged faces and just move around, you can see all the flickering down here. Well, that's probably overlapping faces. If I go in and go to XView, our new system for showing problems with meshes in the viewport, I can say, okay, show me the overlapping faces. Well, everything green is an overlapping face, so that's no good. And if I say show open edges, well, every single edge in the model is open. So when this model was created, nothing was welded together. Every triangle is a separate element, and as you can imagine, it makes it nearly impossible to work with as a model. Now, typically what this meant is an artist would have to go through and weld all the verts together, do cleanup, get rid of overlapping faces, and you could spend hours and days doing this depending on the model that you're working with. And ultimately it may largely be impossible to really clean up to the level you'd like to. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to use some of the new Graphite tools to deal with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a top view. I'm going to turn off the edged faces. And I'm also going to turn off our X view. There we go. So we've got this piece of geometry, and I'm going to go into the Graphite tools for it, and I'm going to say, let's go to Freeform. And instead of drawing on the grid, I'm going to draw on a surface, and then I can just verify that the object in my viewport is the surface that I want to work with. I've currently set it up so that I have an offset of 1 unit, just so everything floats 1 unit above the geometry itself. From here, what I'm going to do is say, all the stuff that I create, could you just make a new object out of that instead of adding it to the object that's in my viewport? Now I'll zoom in, and let's just say, just in this region here, we'll start to work. So the first way I'm going to show you is to work with step build. And one of the things I love when I'm working with the Graphite tools is when I click over a button, you actually get a full readable help dialog of all the ways that this tool can be used. So we're not going to dig into that, but just for your notification, when you get into this in the program, it's a very easy way to learn what each of these things do. So I'm just going to pick on step build. And what step build does is lets me go through and just create vertices. And there's these little blue dots that I'm creating. And essentially I'm going to create them so that it makes little squares. And now all I have to do is just shift and drag through those verts, and it creates some topology for me. And you can see I can scroll down here, and it's actually put that on the surface. If I go and create a few more verts, I can again just shift and drag through it. If I want to create verts off in this direction, shift and drag, shift and drag. And I just keep going, creating the surface that I need. Nice thing as well is if I don't like a polygon, I can actually go through and remove it by doing a control drag across it. If I go through here and want to get rid of a vert, let's say, I can do that as well just by hitting Alt and clicking on the vertice. Those vertices go away, just like so. And there's one here I left behind. And you can just continue building this way. And this is perfect, probably more when you're dealing with things like, say, a scan of a head. And you want to create topology on that head that tracks the facial features. This would be one way you could do that very easily. Now, in the case of a landscape, however, you may want to do this a little differently. So what we're going to do is just spin this around a little bit, zoom in on a different area. And I'm now going to use the topology tool to do this same job. And with topology, what you do is simply go through and draw lines on your surface, just like so. And then whenever you draw the lines in the other direction and start to make quads, it starts to fill the geometry in. And again, remember, all of these curves are tracking the surface of this model. So what it ends up getting me is a lower resolution skin of the geometry that you see underneath it. And the nice thing is, if you want to, you can extend any of these lines. So for instance, if I know I'm going to ultimately make this a little bit bigger, I can just shift and draw the line extensions of the lines that already exist in the viewport. So I just drag it like that, and you can see this line isn't quite long enough, so I just hit shift and drag it over, and it automatically does that. If I decide I need more resolution in a specific area, that's okay. Even though it's already drawn curves and polys, I can just continue drawing in the middle of it to continue to improve the resolution of the overall model. So for instance here, like so, and just add some more geometry there. And ultimately what you end up with is a nice solid model that doesn't have overlapping faces, unwelded vertices, or anything else. You get a nice smooth surface. So here's just one way you can solve those problems. This to me was probably one of the best new features in the Graphite modeling tools. You'll find anyone that has to do this type of work, cleaning up these types of models, can use this technique as a quick way to get a working model up and running.